A very good afternoon to all of you. Thank you so much for making the time to fly over from different continents, different countries, different parts of India, and especially those who have made time to come on this day of celebration, Holi, where your families obviously would have insisted that you stay back and join them in their celebrations. The picture that you see on the screen, late Shri Arun Jaitley, the Honorable former Finance Minister of India. Since we're completing 10 years of BLRC, the Bankruptcy Law Reforms Committee, which was a precursor to the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code, the revolutionary change that the country saw in 2016 when it was enacted. This gentleman who you saw there, who's no longer with us, was a man who initiated and championed it. And every single day when we see, we need to, we recall him. I personally do, and those who were associated with him, people who worked with him very closely in different capacities as friend, as colleague, as those who he has mentored, those he has worked with in different capacities within the government or outside, in the political sphere or in the legal sphere or even otherwise. Remember him very fondly for the person he was, a different politician he was, an able administrator he was, and an reformist he was. And of course, he is more particularly remembered for two very game-changing laws that countries saw in the last decade. One is the GST, which actually in the pre-GST reforms, when he had 17 tax laws by way of GST, they were translated and transformed into one. And of course, the second is the IBC itself. Justice Sikri, Dr. Sahu, and many others in this room know him very well. He was also my mentor in a way. He was one who actually foresaw this reform 3 decades back, nearly 2.5 to 3 decades back, and set up Insol India, which of course is a very formidable organization today. Dinkar Venkat Subramanian, who is the president of Insol India with us today. Former president, Justice Sikri, is here. And also, Arun was someone, we all very fondly call him as Arun sometime, was someone who we awarded the first Emeritus Fellowship, posthumously of course, which his wife, Sangeeta Jaitley, very graciously accepted. And I thought every time we do a conference on insolvency, we should remember the man who championed it and not allow his contribution to slip through the cracks that appear over a period of time or get buried under dust in time. Another man who passed away very recently, the chief chairman of the Economic Advisory Council to the Prime Minister of India, a very well-known economist, again a great champion of insolvency reforms. It was in his room in 2022 that ILA was conceived. And his memory, therefore, to us is very important for that reason as well. Because he was the one who pushed us, both I can say he pushed us, and of course persuaded Justice Sikri that we should have ILA as an Institute of Excellence, which is dedicated to supporting policy reforms on the insolvency front and also the development of the insolvency industry, standard setting in the market. Also our Emeritus Fellow, he passed away very recently. And therefore, before we start the conference, may I request all of you to observe 1 minute's silence in his memory as a tribute to the man who was a great son of India. I have to acknowledge the rich contribution of our very illustrious board, which Justice Sikri chairs, has chaired from the day one. And of course, the previous board, which finished this term in in 2 years that they served on the board. Whatever we have achieved in the last little less than 3 years is because of the leadership that we have, the guidance that we have. A board that is spread in different parts of the world, including from within the country, which doesn't really meet every day, but in their own little ways, in whatever interactions and encounters that we have, they continue to encourage and guide us because they hold such rich, diverse wisdom. I'm sure you will see on your app, so I won't go into the bios of each. I'll just spend one moment on the fellowship. This is something that we started to recognize the contributions of the many, many people in the development of the insolvency, right from the day one when Insol India was conceived and Justice Serene became its president, to of course Mr. Jaitley I mentioned about. I also mentioned about Dr. Bibek Dev Roy, Dr. T.K. Viswanathan, who chaired the Bankruptcy Law Reforms Committee, Patrick Ang, a very eminent insolvency leader from Singapore, Justice Sanjay Kishan Kaul, also a former president of Insol India, a former Supreme Court judge, Neil Cooper, who is considered to be a father of insolvency, one of the co-founders of Insol International, Dr. Bob Wessels, a remarkable scholar, former judge, and of course, more recently, Chief Justice Dhananjay Chandachud, who completed his term as the Chief Justice of India a few months back. And we are so humble that they all have come forward to accept the fellowship and become a part of the ILA fraternity. I'll just take 2-3 minutes more because most of the literature about ILA is in your app. Thought leadership is what ILA is all about. We're constantly thinking as to how can we think out of box, how can we think of bringing in many, many suggestions and ideas which we can delve deeper into, do deep research on, and eventually produce, whether it's policy papers or just thought papers or just ideation papers, and help the policymakers in their efforts in creating a robust insolvency industry ecosystem in the country. Most of these are that you would be familiar with, but for us, we've been working on this over the last 2.5 to 3 years. Some of these are of course very futuristic, and many people in the room have much greater depth of knowledge than at ILA, but I'm so grateful that they are in one way or the other associated with our efforts in all of these areas. These are some of the collaborations that we built over the last 2.5 years, which we're very, very proud of. Some of the top institutions in the country and outside. With some, we have a chair, a joint chair, or somewhere we have a chair that we have housed with them, and some are supporting the chairs or the various research initiatives that we have, and we are so thankful for these collaborations and support. These are some of the chairs that we have, which is constantly working on futuristic research. These are some of the papers that we have done. Some are in the process, and I'm happy that a couple of them actually have already made policy impact, where the government having either set up an expert committee based on this, or even having taken a decision at the parliament level or at the policy level. The hybrid insolvency resolution process, an expert committee was set up, which was chaired by Mr. Sudhakar Shukla, a full-time member of IBBI. He's with us today. He finished his term with the IBBI a few days back. For the benefit of those who are not aware of IBBI, IBBI is the Regulator, Insolvency and Bankruptcy Board of India. Statement of Standards in Conduct and Performance for Creditors, a voluntary code of conduct, which today now IBBI has come out with as a part of the regulations. And we do believe that some guidance was offered by the document that we did nearly 2 years ago. Indian maritime and insolvency law is something where we are trying to bring the attention of the government, since India is growing rapidly in the shipping sector, in the ports area, as to what is it that we need to do in order to sort of align the insolvency law with the maritime law. The aircraft protocol, this is where we actually were able to influence an amendment in the insolvency law where, based on the Cape Town Convention, the leased aircrafts were excluded from the moratorium in a way. Fresh start process is something that is a futuristic project that we are working on in order to sort of bring the bottom of the pyramid into the fold of the insolvency, or part of the IBC which has still not been implemented. Goa Roundtable on mediation was something which actually made a call for more keen involvement of mediation and insolvency. Fortunately, in an earlier paper that ILA did, IBBI, after discussion at the National Colloquium, constituted a committee, which Dr. D.K. Vishwanath headed. Again, Mr. Sudhakar Shukla steered it. Those recommendations are with the government, and a part of that is sought to be implemented shortly. A draft paper is already out. That is more about the asset reconstruction companies, an in-house paper that did. And one of the most complex climate change and insolvency in India is a paper that we have done, a draft 100-page paper which is already out, and we hope to discuss this in the couple of sessions that we have over the next 2 days in order to get feedback from you before we present this paper to the Prime Minister's office. Model Municipal Distress Resolution Framework, again, this is something which we are working together with the Securities and Exchange Board of India in collaboration, where Mr. Pramod Rao, I don't know if he's already arrived, is in the room or not. The Executive Director of Securities and Exchange Board of India and I have jointly worked on a paper which we will be presenting, I don't know if it's tomorrow or day after, and we are hoping that this again would be something which will go for the consideration of the policymakers to see how it can be incorporated within the framework. And then of course we are working on another paper which is still a work in progress, which is more an academic work, because Indian cinema is a very deep influencer. It is the mirror of society, but at the same time it also influences society. So we are doing a research on how Indian cinema has portrayed insolvency or financial failure over the last 120 years since Indian cinema has been made, and to see what are the learnings from there and how the societal attitude has changed towards insolvency. So that's more to sort of get a perspective on the issue of stigma in insolvency. That is something which is about 4 to 5 months away. Asha, my wife, she's heads the foundation, which is working, Indian Cinema Heritage Foundation, which is working with ILA. I mean, this you will see omnipresent, the scholars and the emerging scholars group. These are the people who have actually steered our scholarly direction in the first 2 years, and I'm so grateful to this group. Eugenio, who's in the room, Mariam, and Raghav, these 3 people have actually spent so much of time with ILA, and thanks to you, Eugenio, and of course Mariam, because they've really mentored the young people, invited papers, held sessions with them, and that is what ILA is all about, to focus on building a rich fraternity of insolvency scholars in the country, especially the bottom of the pyramid, so that all those young people who come into the market, they are already benefited by the guidance these established scholars. EMD task force, I mean, I'll talk a little bit more about in a session that we have, because this is very, very important. I'd like to spend about 5 minutes on that, but we don't have the time today. This is about India's Global South initiative and also about the emerging markets getting a voice in the global policy making. Next paragraph, and we have set up a task force. Arun Jaitley Mediation Center, I've spoken about in the past, most of you are familiar. This is something that we've been thinking of for quite some time. We already have in that direction come out with a book, which is an anthology of essays written by some of the top scholars from around the world and within the country. Even the Indian Prime Minister's office judges, Justice Sikri, very graciously edited this book, and I had the privilege of co-editing it with him. That is a part of this whole exercise of creating a world-class institution, which is a collaboration with a foundation, Arun Jaitley Foundation, which the family of Mr. Arun Jaitley late Mr. Arun Jaitley has set up. So as a joint venture, we are setting up this foundation as a center. This is an initiative where we invite short stories, literary stories on on insolvency from the market. Young people, anybody can write on the stories. These stories tell what people think about insolvency law, IBC, as through the short stories they write, and then the best story is selected for an award of 1 lakh, and we have last 2 years given these 2 awards. Today in the evening we will be presenting the 3rd award to the winner of the 3rd edition of the short story contest. This is a tribute, this is a work in progress. It will take about 4 or 5 years for us to create a global archive of insolvency literature, and it's done in the name of late Justice D.P. Wadhwa, former judge of the Supreme Court, who was the founder of Insol India together with Mr. Jaitley. Terry Taylor, a former Insol International Board member, one of the stalwarts from Australia, a great hero, my hero. So as a tribute to his legacy, we are setting up an Asian library in his name, which is a physical library, of course. And we already have contributions of books coming on from all around the world. We have 116 books at the moment in our library, contributed by different people. If you see here, Ignacio's comment. Ignacio is the Secretary General of the UNIDROIT. He mentioned in one of his speeches at ILA conference that ILA is the first institution in the world with a unique pedigree. I'm confident many jurisdictions will be inspired to adopt this model. And I'll just therefore take a minute to mention about why he did mention this, because we have great organizations, Insol International, III, American Bankruptcy Institute, American Bankruptcy College, Insol Europe, some of those who do remarkable work. They have over the last 30, 40 years in their existence built a huge legacy and body of work, established global institutions and leaders. And when we were thinking and creating ILA, Justice Sikri, Dr. Vivek Debroy, I, and some of the others who sat together initially, I had a lot of discussions with Dr. Sahu as well. We wanted to create an institution which is not just a thought leader and a policy contributor, but a research institution, but one which is independent to the core, not just by way of perception, but in hard reality, where nobody could suggest that you are representing or advocating a particular stakeholder's view, and therefore you're championing in your policy recommendations to the government a particular stakeholder's flag. We wanted to be absolutely sure that we had neutral, brutally independent, and even if it takes a whole lot of struggle, because we can't accept funding from many such institutions who actually come forward to make generous support, because we want to earn the reputation of being an institution which is only committed to one thing, which is the robustness of the insolvency law. And in that, take care of the interest of the all stakeholders, balance it, but not seen to be as a lobbying organization. And that is why we have been able to earn the confidence in the last just 2.5 years of not just the Indian government, regulators, many other institutions, as well as outside the country as well. We today are having our centers and collaborations in 2 countries, and we are hoping that this will something which will continue to grow. And that is what ILA is all about. And all this would not have been possible but for the great encouragement that comes from our board, Justice Sikri, many other people, including 2 who are on the board, Dr. Sahu, Sri Shamala, former judge, member of the National Company Law Appellate Tribunal, and many other friends here who are involved with the ILA in one or the other way. So I've taken a little longer than what I should have, but it was important, since so many of you are here, especially those young people at the back who are the future of our insolvency industry, to know about what ILA is all about.